Our first speaker on the panel is Dr. Janis Esots, who's one of our main research scholars at the Institute of Ismaili Studies, where he works in the Shi'i Studies unit. Amongst his numerous achievements and activities, he's the editor of the Islamic Philosophy Yearbook, Ishraq. He's also an editor of the massive encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia Islamica, and he has a forthcoming book, a major study, Patterns of Thought in Safavid Iran. His paper is titled Al-Ḥakīm al-Tirmidhī's Teaching of Walāya and its Reception in Later Islamic Gnosis.
As Toby said, I will say a few words about Ḥakīm Tirmidhī. Just as an introductory remark, I would not like to present or to be thought of as a major scholar of Ḥakīm Tirmidhī. There are several scholars who have done and are doing more in-depth research on him, like Bernd Radke, Geneviève Gobillot, Khalid Zakhri, and Saraswiri, and there are about a dozen doctoral dissertations on him. What prompted me to opt for this topic was two things. First, I visited Tirmiz in August 2019, including his memorial complex, and second is I was asked to mentor a postdoctoral scholar whose dissertation dealt with various aspects of Walāya, and this included, of course, Ḥakīm Tirmidhī. And just as a proof that he is indeed related to Khurāsān, here is a recent book, a bibliography of Moroccan scholar Khalid Zakhri, Ḥakīm Khurāsān wa Anis al-Zaman. Basically, I will have to reiterate a few points about what is probably well enough known about Tirmidhī's treatment of this issue of Walāya, and then say something about how it was reflected upon and received by the later tradition in Khurāsān and beyond. So principal text is, of course, Khatm al-Awliya according to Yahya Usman, or Sirat al-Awliya according to Radke. And just to explain, there is still an ongoing discussion about the authenticity of certain Tirmidhi's texts, like comes to my mind Gawr al-Umur, and even this discussion has become at some points between Radke and Gobillot quite bitter. And I will not go into it, but there is this issue of authenticity remaining. But this particular treatise, Khatm al-Awliya, seems to be, as far as we can establish, indeed authored by Tirmidhī himself. So principal elements of Tirmidhī's teaching on Walāya, what might be these? So this is in basically patron-client relationship who conclude pact of God and his friend, Wali, conclude pact of mutual assistance. And this is called Aqd al-Walāya. And hence the most important quality or key requirement that Wali must possess is sidq, or sincerity, or truthfulness. And let me be clear from the outset that to Tirmidhī, Wali is one who confirms the mission of the messengers and the prophets, but he neither challenges it nor attempts to somehow overpass it. This all happened, but in later Irfani tradition. Not in this. Not that didn't happen in Tirmidhī. In case of Tirmidhī. So, friends of God, who are they? And also we have to apparently place firmly Tirmidhī in this Sunni context and make it clear from the outset that from Tirmidhī's point of view, people who are Ahl al-Bayt, who are people of God's house or Prophet's house, they are not relatives or descendants of Prophet Muhammad. Rather, they are people of the remembrance of God, Ahl Bayt az-Zikr. So these are namely this hierarchy of Walāya who ensure, say, God's presence in the earth, or the continuous uninterrupted relation between the divine and the created. So hierarchy of the awliya, in first, it can be envisaged in different aspects. First, we have to discern between Wali Haqqallah and Wali Allah. Wali Haqqallah is a friend of what is due unto God, and Wali Allah is just friend of God. So Wali Haqqallah is indeed, as I said, he's a client or a vassal who is who duly and sincerely fulfills his duties and obligations towards his sovereign and Lord. Wali Allah, it's by and large, he's not dissimilar to Majzub, so one who is drawn or attracted by God himself, near to him, and hence there is substantial difference between these two degrees. However, Wali, there are two degrees between of Wali Haqqallah, so friend of what is due unto God. These are Sadiq, the lowest degree of Walāya apparently, and Al-Hur al-Karam, the free and the noble. So he is one degree above this Sadiq, sincere. Still, he is not Wali Allah. But these two degrees, Sadiq and Al-Hur al-Karam, and Khur al-Karam, they of course have achieved the station of Qurba, closeness or nearness, but that's that. Instead, or Wali Allah, so there are also degrees of this Awliya Allah, God's friends proper, not friends of duty to God. And this, again, is this hierarchy is envisaged by Tirmidhī in different aspects. So he speaks in one aspect about Munaji, converser, or one who is counseling with God. And then a more elevated degree is one of Muhaddas, one who hears divine speech. But still, of course, Muhaddas is at least one degree below Nabi, so the most common prophet, not prophet with law giving duty. So this should be clear. Then again, Wali Allah, what else? His most common features. He possesses knowledge of primordial beginning, Bada, and divine decrees or measures, Makadir, as well as of the day of the covenant, Yawm al-Mistaq, and he is acquainted well with the science of letters, Ilm al-Huruf. He is, in another aspect, possessor of Qalb. So Qalb's heart literally is the organ of, say, communication with the divine, and so degree of Walāya is to significant, but to crucial extent depends on to what extent the wali is in control of his nafs, so his lower soul commanding him to something evil, and distracting his communication with the divine. And then Tirmidhī elaborates quite a lot on this majzub. I will not go into much detail, just mentioning a couple of points. This majzub travels through what is called mafazat al-hayra. Mafazat al-hayra, so desert or bewilderment. So this same or bewilderment, hayra, it pervades kind of development of gnosis to Ibn Arabi and beyond. And then majzub, this majzub or wali Allah in true sense is not, cannot be considered in categories of jahd and thawab, so effort and reward. Might be of some importance. Then hierarchy of this awliya. What Tirmidhī says, there are 40 siddiqun on the earth, and 30 of them have the heart of Abraham or Ibrahim. In the crucial question now is what is to be understood by khatm al-awliya or khatm al-walāya, so seal of the friends or seal of the friendship, or khatim, sealer of friendship. And I would, my conclusion is that Tirmidhī understands this concept as, say, paragon or archetypal exemplar of wali. So something like Verus Prophet, the eternal prophet or eternal imam. And Mahdi, for example, is envisaged by him, understood by him, just as one of the manifestations of this eternal seal of the friendship, who appears at the end of the times or at the end of the cycle. That to me is Tirmidhī's idea about Mahdi, briefly. Then Khatm al-Awliya has advanced to the realm of Wahdaniyya, unicity and Fardiyya, so singleness, and he has reached the interior batin, to which of the divine essence, to which no attributes can be attributed. So this is refers to me to the concept of at-tajalli al-zati, essential self-disclosure. I will go return to it in a few minutes. Khatm al-Awliya offers protection to the rest of Awliya, offers protection in case they fell short of their sincerity in fulfilling their duties. And then one issue which Tirmidhī discusses is difference between ripe wali and unripe wali. So ripe wali is one who knows himself and who does not fear people, and who is never shy to defend God's rights and give God what is due to him. In turn, an unripe wali is the one who fears people, wanders in wilderness, is not known as wali by either himself or others, and fears that the lights of the union, Anwar al-Wisal, might burn away the appetites of his carnal soul. So according to this autobiographical piece, Badu Ashan, this is how Tirmidhī felt or behaved himself in his early stages of his journey along the path of Walāya. What were subsequent elaborations? So closest in time to Tirmidhī were, of course, Sulami and Hujviri, and in their anthologies they provide a couple of names of Tirmidhī's disciples. Without them we wouldn't have known this. These are Abu Ali Juzjani, who in turn had a disciple named Ibrahim Samarkandi, Another disciple, Abu Bakr al-Warraq, so copyist or bookseller. And these are mentioned by both Sulami and Hujwiri. And that's that much. Hujwiri says that, claims that Tirmidhi established or founded Hakimiyya, Tariqa, Hakimiyya order. But this is to my doxographer's invention. Just attempt to classify everything, even if there is no need and no ground. According to Hujwiri, so he elaborates in Tirmidhi, there are 7 degrees of awliya, which I will not go mention. They are detailed just as these are. Common walis, then akhyar, abdal, autad, nukaba, and there's one qutb or ghaus. And then Hujwiri elaborates on, emphasizes the superiority of prophets over God's friends. So Anbiya compared to Awliya, what Nabi possesses, according to Hujwiri, what Nabi possesses essentially, Wali possesses only accidentally. So this is Makam Hal difference. And the acquired station of Wali is hijab, so veil for Nabi. So, in short, Hujwiri in particular make Tirmidhi look much more orthodox than he is in his original writings. And these elaborations are, of course, very useful, informative, but they don't go into the depths of Tirmidhi's discussion. So this attempt to go into depths was made by Ibn Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi and his successor and foster son, Sadruddin Kunawi, who made principal doctrinal elaborations of Tirmidhi's doctrine, as we see about 300 years later. Ibn Arabi distinguished between Khatim al-Walāya al-Mutlaka of Amma, so a seal of unqualified or general friendship, and Khatim al-Walāya al-Muhammadiyya, seal of Muhammadan friendship. And to him, the seal of general or unqualified friendship was Isa or Jesus. And as for the seal of Muhammadan friendship, he is enigmatic. Although he discusses this issue a lot, in particular in his early work, Ankam Mughrib. What we learn is that he met, allegedly, this seal of Muhammadan friendship in Fas in 1198 current era, and that's that. And there have been a lot of speculations. So did he actually mean himself, or did he mean someone else? And I will not go into this. So what Ibn Arabi took over was discussion of, as I said, Tirmidhi says that Khatim al-Awliya, Shia in all God's names equally, and he is not dominated by any of God's names. So there is, these names are in his heart in complete equilibrium. So this is the situation of Tajalli as-Zati, so God's essential disclosure when none of his names predominates, is Galb over the other. And so this is the property of Khatim al-Walāya, indicated by Tirmidhi and confirmed and elaborated by Ibn Arabi and Sadruddin Kunawi. Although Kunawi said that, all right, this can last, this is possible, but to me it can last only for a second or an instant. And then they again elaborated on the concept of hayra, or bewilderment or perplexion, which is more or less permanent situation according to them, permanent situation of Wali, who is struggling to distinguish between where the creation creator ends and the creation begins. And as for Nabi-Wali relationship, well, this goes back to Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz. So whether the same person can be Nabi and Wali in different aspects, and what does this imply? What will not go into this. About this hierarchy of saints or awliya, what is the role of Khadir or Khidr played in it? Kubravis, in particular, Simnani, Al-Dawla Simnani, in his Urwa al-Wusta, if I'm not making mistake, elaborated on this a lot. And as for the relationship of Wali with society, with the authorities, with the power, it is of course Khajagan and Naqshbandi order, in particular Khaja Ubadullah Agrar, about whom we will very shortly hear much more from more competent persons than myself about him, who proposed these principles like Khalwat Dar Anjuman, solitude in society, or Dil Bayor Das Bakor, heart to the friend with the friend and hands engaged in some work. So, how can we summarize this evolution or reception of Tirmidhi's concept or understanding of theory of Walāya? In most cases, this reception was an elaboration. It was of extensive rather than intensive character. So details were added, speculations were made, but apart from Ibn Arabi and Kunawi, so there were few attempts to go in depth. However, and with this I will conclude, there were in very recent history such attempts in contemporary Shi'i scholar, made by contemporary Shi'i scholars. The person whom I was happy to meet and know, the late Jalaluddin, Sayyid Jalaluddin Ashtiyani, who elaborated on this concept of Khatm al-Walāya and concluded, proposed it rather, that it was Imam Ali who was the seal of Muhammadan friendship in terms of Rutbatan, he says, so in terms of rank, whereas Mahdi was the seal of Muhammadan friendship Zamanan, so in terms of time. Is he not, of course, contradicting or dismissing what Tirmidhi says, that this friendship has nothing to do with, say, physical relationship or descendants from true or alleged from the Prophet? Probably he is, but of course then Ashtiyani viewed this issue from deeply being immersed in this Shi'i perspective, whereas Tirmidhi presents us, and he spoke from evidently Sunni perspective at that time. I think I can stop here. Thank you very much.